Gossip Girl was a staple for me when I was in high school, years after it came out in 2007, when I was 10 years old, so probably for the best. And now I'm starting to wonder why this show was such a fave. Don't get me wrong, it's very entertaining, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the show quite literally makes no sense from the premise to the plot to the characters.
I'm Chuck Bass.
Am I supposed to believe this man is in high school? Am I supposed to believe that people like this even exist? A bunch of high schoolers living life in the Big Apple, just having fun, being rich, and well, yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, and we will also bring people back from the dead. What more can a teenage girl ask for? But that's not really the problem with Gossip Girl. Lots of shows suck. They're not special for making a shitty show. What they are special for is how shitty they went out of their way to make it. And there are so many things I can touch on, which I most likely will eventually, even though it's gonna give me a fucking headache. But today, we're just going to focus on the way these high schoolers were portrayed throughout mainly seasons 1 and 2. Let's just get right into it. Clap if you think any of these people are high school passing. I'll wait. This isn't necessarily a big deal because this isn't by any means uncommon for adults to play high schoolers, especially with themes like this taking place, but I just couldn't get over how unbelievable it was in Gossip Girl. I think Jenny and Eric were maybe the only ones who passed, which makes sense because they were actually the youngest cast members. But everyone else, like Serena, Chuck, Dan, Nate, no, immediately no. But who cares about the actors? Let's get down to business. Where are the parents? What the fuck is actually going on? I know we see them, but like, I don't know, the lights are on and no one's home. Any typical parent whose child was running around the city like this would be viewed as neglectful. But I guess the same rules don't apply when you're rich. So Gossip Girl opens with Serena returning from boarding school in Connecticut because she's an out-of-control 15-year-old who just can't seem to stay out of trouble and just needed to get away from the city. And right then and there, you're introduced to Gossip Girl, a blog that reveals secrets about the socialites in the city. Many of the scandals and secrets typically involving the high schoolers that go to all of the main characters' high school. She lets everyone know she received word that Serena is back in town, and from there, we are aware that Serena is the main character, even though she's insufferable.
Thanks.
You're welcome. The whole episode is kind of Serena getting used to the city again. She makes an appearance at Blair's party, but you can just tell that there's something very off about her. And we later find out that she does have a secret. Yes, the reason she actually fled to Connecticut is because she slept with Blair's boyfriend Nate at a wedding they were all attending. And I guess running to Connecticut was easier than coming clean. We do see her meet Dan and start their exhausting back and forth relationship in this season, but this isn't about you, lonely boy. You will have your day on my channel. Do you guys mind if I fast forward to the juicy parts? It doesn't matter, I'm doing it anyway. So it turns out Serena actually left that wedding that night after screwing her best friend's boyfriend and went to go hang out with Georgina, aka my, your, her, everyone's worst nightmare. I guess she was just trying to take the edge off with some drinks, maybe a little booger sugar. At 15, yeah. She went straight up to the hotel room where Georgina was waiting for her with a guy friend, and they're just in there hanging out when Georgina leaves the room. And I might add, Georgina is setting Serena up this whole time. She has a whole camera set up to film God knows what. At that point, the man who was in the room with Serena starts making a move on her. As a way to distract him, she says, "Let's do some lines first," to which he agrees. Again, girl, what? As he does his first line, he starts having a really bad reaction, I guess overdosing, and he ends up passing away. I just think it's so weird, the dynamics of these teenagers. Like, what teenager is like, you know what, let's just do some lines first, take the edge off, and then I'll hook up with you. Like, it's just so weird. So it turns out, not only did she betray her best friend, but she also suggested the line that killed the man she was about to sleep with, and it's all on camera. I feel like the premise throughout season 1 almost entirely was Serena trying to get over why she really left for Connecticut the previous year. We basically see her coming to terms with it, going to visit the guy's parents, coming clean to her mom, who was almost too calm about seeing her high school daughter in this very strange adult predicament. Yeah, I forgot to mention, her mom found the tape, started watching it, and stopped because she's pussy. I'm sorry, but she should have just had the balls to watch it all the way through. This is your daughter. You should know the types of things that she's involved in. Other than that, there were a plethora of things that showed the unreal independence of these 15 to 16-year-old kids. Like Chuck owning a nightclub, or the way Blair runs all these insane parties that low-key seem boring as fuck, by the way. Oh, and how can I forget Chuck essaying Jenny while no one ever informs an adult? Y'all realize he actually assaulted her, right? He didn't try to, he assaulted her. And Dan punches him in the face, rightfully so, but it's crazy how he thinks that handled it. Like, nigga, you are not grown. You ain't got shit handled. These kids are seriously underprotected as fuck. They have all the privilege in the world, but other than Rufus Humphrey when he feels like it, hardly anyone ever puts their foot down to discipline these kids. The way Blair hijacked her mom's fashion show and then proceeded to get away with it because her mom is never informed that her daughter is indeed a raging bitch who would jeopardize her own mother's legacy just to see her friend, who she's jealous of, fail. Don't get me wrong, I do like Blair, but she needed boundaries, which honestly her dad does try to teach her a few when she lies about actually knowing that Dan and that teacher are having an affair, which they do end up having an affair. So let's talk about the fact that Dan has an affair with his teacher. The man with the moral compass has you know what? Let me just shut the fuck up before this video becomes about how much of a fucking hypocrite Dan is. Like I said, you will have your day, lonely boy. This isn't about you. I was beyond disgusted with the teacher who played all innocent and then as soon as she got fired was like, yeah, I low-key wanted it this whole time. Like, ma'am, why were you meeting this kid who didn't even have a class with you outside of school hours, knowing you have inappropriate feelings toward him? Even if you didn't have inappropriate feelings toward him, what's really wrong with you? And she even sleeps with him on school property. What the fuck? Can we really talk about it? The school is more concerned about avoiding a scandal than it is about protecting the kids. Yes, Blair reports this before anything actually happens, but I like to think them meeting in a coffee shop and being that close to each other with the power dynamics that exist in their relationship is weird. Am I wrong for this? Even in college, I would only meet professors during office hours and never considered going out for a drink or even a coffee with my professors. And Dan is doing this in high school? Thank God his dad interjects. Thank God Rufus Humphrey typically don't play that shit. And I love how the writers felt obligated to throw in that line, Dad, I'm 18, I'm not a kid. Like, y'all thought y'all ate that, huh? Okay. The people who work for the Bass family don't know Chuck is a child. There's no way they do. Going back to earlier in season 1 when Chuck offers Serena a grilled cheese as she's drunk off her tits from drinking martinis all night at his dad's hotel bar, we notice that he basically runs shit. And at this point, he's like maybe 16 years old. Maybe. First of all, the fact that they just serve Serena is just... Well, why am I even surprised? But then, to let this squeaky little gerbil motherfucker tell you that your shift is over and just bend to his word is crazy work. Unless you've been instructed by his parents to just do what he says, which is even crazier work. Oh, and when they leave, Chuck essays Serena because why not, right? What did she think, the grilled cheese was free? Crazy how Chuck proceeds to fall in love with Blair and no one cautions her that he is a dangerous, dangerous person. Like, did Serena forget what he did to her? At least no one says anything to him unless it's in the most subtle ways. It's almost like these kids have a crazy life insurance policy that their parents would rather cash in on than to keep them alive and well. Chuck and Blair are never ever supervised. Dorota doesn't watch Blair. Don't get it twisted. Blair watches her and slaves her around, so she doesn't count as a guardian. And all of Chuck and Blair's encounters are adult-esque, and the tension could be cut with a knife. Like, it's kind of weird. It just lacks any high school energy whatsoever, and I think there's something so dark about that. Just the stripping of innocence of these kids. Just to quickly go back to the drinking, in one of the episodes, Blair is literally waiting for Chuck with a bottle of Dom Perignon, and Dorota, who people think is her guardian, watches as she takes the entire bottle upstairs to her room when he stands her up, and she says nothing. Proof that she has no authority in her life, just like her own parents have no authority in her life. Like, she doesn't even look in the slightest bit concerned. Lily has a similar attitude with Serena. You would think after all the scandals and the boarding school and the running away, she would discourage substance use altogether, but no. When Serena is dating a guy who doesn't drink and tries to refuse a drink, her mom seems surprised and even gives her a little nudge to just take it. What is actually going on? And regardless of their ages in this very first season, we know this behavior doesn't just start here because we saw the reason why Serena left in the first place. She's clearly been doing whatever she wants for a while now, and you could probably assume lots of people considered her a socialite from a very young age, causing her to have different rules than other kids. From the jump, we see Chuck as a whole setup with premium alcohol ready to drink when he pleases. This isn't normal, and just because you're rich doesn't mean it has to be. We see how when Bart marries Lily in season 2 and he's trying to gain some control over the kids for the sake of his image, he's met with a lot of resistance. They've never had rules like this before, so why should they start now? Especially when the only reason is due to conserving a public image. This is a common theme with Serena's family, constantly covering scandals and focused on how things appear rather than what they really are. The care for the kids often seems superficial because of this, like they're only worth supervising when something superficial is at risk. The impromptu trips taken by the teenagers prove this to be true as well. One notable example is when Serena sends her mom a text message, not even a phone call, to let her know that she will be going to Spain for a few days with her older friend Poppy, who is constantly trying to convince Serena that she acts too high school, that she has too many rules, and that she's not living the it girl life that she really deserves to live. Like, Poppy, you're creepy. But yeah, Poppy later turns out to be a scammer, rich. And Serena's mom doesn't even go to get her or stop her from going to Spain. She doesn't even send someone to try to get her because after all, her safety, she just allows her high school age daughter to randomly leave the country just because. While there, of course, Serena goes wild and gets fake married to the man who was helping Poppy scam her, who then convinces her that he's in a relationship with Poppy but is really in love with her, Serena. But this is all part of some elaborate plan that he set up with Poppy to get Serena to give him access to all her rich connections so he can scam them all, including Rufus, who invests Dan's college tuition. I'm still pissed off that Dan didn't get to go to Yale. Like, I feel like it was really stupid that he didn't end up going to Yale, and they made this happen just for the plot of them being in the city still. But I digress. Serena ends up getting everyone scammed. And what does Lily do? Does she come clean to everyone that this man scammed them, apologize and hope that they will forgive her? Hold Poppy and what's-his-face accountable? No, instead she tells Serena to leave it alone and allow her to quietly take care of it to avoid a scandal. Serena actually wants Poppy to get in trouble for what she did, so she sets up a really stupid plan, along with Georgina out of all people, and the rest of her minions. It doesn't work. Lily gets Serena arrested to teach her not to mess with Mommy Dearest. And it's not the fact that Lily wanted to handle things privately that I have a problem with. Like, who cares? It's the fact that her motives always seem to be about public image, at least in the first few seasons of the show. By the third season, she realizes how much like her mother she is and how much of a control freak she's become, and has a bit of character growth, I guess. But the fact that no action was taken when her child left the country, but such big actions are taken to avoid scandal is just kind of weird. Don't get me wrong, Gossip Girl had its moments for me. It wasn't all bad, and there's a lot of nostalgia around the show. That doesn't take away from the fact that these high schoolers lived in a somewhat fantasy world where teens could just operate with adult autonomy. The sheer lack of parental guidance is appalling, though it works as a gateway to entertainment for the viewer. Many scenes could just not have taken place without this fantasy world. It is TV after all. I'm not gonna act like high school is the most innocent environment in the world and that nothing like these events that happened in Gossip Girl take place in the real world. Of course they do, especially in a place like New York City where everything is so accessible. Adult autonomy is also something that isn't special to Gossip Girl. Not only did we see this in other shows of the time like 90210, but we see it even more today as people showcase their lives on social media. Many teens today, maybe even more so teens with money and privilege, have autonomy akin to that of adults. So I don't want to make it seem like it doesn't exist outside of Gossip Girl. I do still find it weird though, when producers create teen-based shows and have a large emphasis on age-inappropriate themes. I think it's cool to showcase the struggles of teen life, but too often is there such a huge emphasis on over-sexualization and drug use. And some shows truly take it to the extreme, like Euphoria. When you really sit there and consider the fact that these are supposed to be teenagers, you wonder why the writing has so much eroticism and there's so much nudity on the screen. You kind of start to wonder, who is this for? Sure, they say it's for adults, but that's weird. And if they say it's for teenagers, it's also weird. I'm not gonna get too much into why, because that's not what this video is about. Gossip Girl is rated TV-14, so I guess it is somewhat targeted at teenagers. I don't remember feeling like this was normal behavior for teenagers when I watched this, but I think I was in like 12th grade at the time, so I was 17 and I clearly knew what high school is really like. Now, if I had watched this at 10 years old when it came out or even 14 years old, maybe I would have looked at it differently. Maybe I would have felt like this type of behavior is just normal for teens, at least the rich ones. I just feel like a lot of what happened in this show was wild for the age group, especially the way most of the adults handle things. Anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end of the video. You have a special place in my heart. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, of course if you feel like it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.